education, and real-world knowledge about the voiceover industry. It's the Voiceover Gurus Podcast.
All right. Welcome back to the Voiceover Gurus podcast. I am Linda Bruno. You all probably know at this point that I have a physical studio that students come to here on Long Island. And coincidentally enough, there is another voice talent that also has a training studio. And you're located in Nashville, Tennessee, I believe, is the
Yes, that's
resident?
correct.
And that is Christi Bowen. So I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
This isn't like an unusual thing. I mean, how many voice talent do you know have like coaching studios?
I know two others.
Okay.
So, yeah, maybe I guess there are 4 or 5 of us that actually have physical, brick and mortar locations, as they are, called.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not very many. Not very many. It's a large leap of faith. It is.
Yes.
It's another mouth to feed, because you're running 2 businesses.
Right.
You're doing your own job as well as, running a studio. So, yeah.
Yeah. So describe your studio first. Like you have
Sure.
multiple training rooms or what you got?
It's actually one large room. I have a whisper room recording booth in there. That's, basically where I have people go into the booth and everything else. I rent out the studio whenever somebody comes to town or, needs a demo recorded, whatever. So they're using the whisper room for that purposes. But it's just one very large room at this point. Looking to maybe upgrade in the future, but right now it works for my needs. It's in a building that I worked in for 11 years. It's a building called Film House. So there are lots of other film production companies in there.
Cool.
And yeah, it's nice. It's a nice community, and I've known the people for 20-something years. So
That's awesome.
It's kind of like going home again after having worked in the building for 11 years, then having 11 years off of not working in the building, and now I'm back. It's kind of weird.
Oh, that's
but
great.
it's great.
It's like a family thing.
Yeah, it really is. And it's a nice location, and it's very central to, it's not too far from downtown Nashville, but it's very centrally located because we have just such a large area here in Middle Tennessee, as it's known. And so I get people from Kentucky, I get people from, various parts of Tennessee to come and take classes and everything else. So it's a nice area. It's Gosh, yeah. It's a work in progress still. I did change rooms within the building at one point and to a larger room that's working. But I'm finding it, I feel like I'm outgrowing it already,
wow.
So it's good. But yeah, it's one very large room with a whisper room booth and my desk for editing and doing things. And yeah.
Do you do your regular voiceover work there too?
Sometimes, yes.
Okay.
It depends. Yeah, it just depends on what time of day it is and what everything else. Like I have classes mostly at nighttime.
Okay.
So I tend to go in later in the afternoon, just so I don't have to get up first thing in the morning and spend 12 hours there. There are no windows. So
Oh, yeah. Welcome to my world. Yes.
yes, exactly. So, but I do a lot there, and I have a matching microphone there as to what I have at home. So that way, I
So are you at home now?
things. I am at home at
You
the
must
moment.
be.
Yes.
Okay, because of the time
Yeah.
that we're recording this.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I'm there most of the time. It's kind of nice to be able to go to the office, as it were,
Amen. Amen,
after 11
sister.
years of not. It's a nice feeling, and having other people around you. And, I have students throughout the day, coming for private lessons and things and, studio rental time. So I try to be there as much as possible. But, there are days I time shift and I stay home for a while and then go in later.
Well, you have your own business. You have that luxury if you can work it out.
Yeah,
We all do,
absolutely. Absolutely.
I know I'm with you in that camp that I love being around people. I worked at home as well, like so many voice talent do. And for me, it's just I prefer to have the creative energy that I can bounce off of other people because it's a video production company here and audio editing booths and
nice.
stuff. Yeah, so it's all that symbiotic relationship, because videos are edited,
absolutely.
they need voices. And I've been like plus 20 years with these people.
Wow.
So same thing. It's like they're my family. They come to my house. They come to my parties. And so it's not like going to work. It's like going to a great environment.
Yeah.
And then being able to cut it off. I mean, I did work from home on Monday, and that was a pain because I'm set up, but I'm not set up like this,
Right.
So
Right. Absolutely.
but I do same with you. I like being able to shut it off and go, all right, I'm going home. I'm not going to think about stuff, and I answer emails
Yep.
and things, but otherwise.
Yeah,
you know.
it's nice to have that separation, but it's also, there's something about walking into the office, with that set of keys and walking in and being like, this is mine,
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I have a fellow coach that actually worked at the company with me forever. Actually, I kind of worked with him more correctly speaking. And he coaches with me every now and then. And it's so funny because the first time he walked in, he's like, wow, you're like legit. He's like, look, you've got brochures and business cards and a sign and all this stuff. And it's just, he's like, wow.
And
He
rent.
just kind of turned around and looked at me and shook his head. He's like, wow. So it was kind of, that felt like completely validating,
Yeah,
Because
totally.
we're all just, when you work at home and everything else and you don't have to be in a space other than your own home.
I know.
When you build something else, it's really, it's kind of gratifying. It's stressful, but it's gratifying.
I thought
as
about
well.
what if I don't have the studio? I mean, I personally would not feel comfortable having people coming to my home.
Exactly.
It's like, what do you do? Everything moves online, I guess. But then that's a bummer because I have students that like to physically be in a space.
Yeah, mine do too. And that's one of the reasons I started the meetup group here in Nashville. Well, I co-founded the meetup group, in 2012. And it had been going, it still is. We had a meeting last night. But, it's been going since 2012. And we would meet once a month in person. And, we would get sometimes 20 and 30 people at our meetings.
Wow.
And that was because everybody wanted to meet each other and they wanted to hang out and they wanted to hear the information. And, we wanted to get out and have our water cooler moments,
Sure. Mm-hmm.
and really be together. And, then the pandemic hit and we went to all online and it's slowly building back from then. We had about 16 people in the meeting last night, which was great, but we also had a casting director come in and they wanted to
that's
hear all
nice.
about the casting directors, so that was really nice. But, it's just really that being there physically is a thing. And the studio kind of sprang out of that because everybody, knew who I was. And they're like, well, you do this full time. You've got a booth. You've got a facility. I need to record a demo or I need to source connect. And can I come over to your place? And I'm going, I really, I got a kid. And I was like, I really don't want people in my house.
Right.
And, I called up my insurance agent. I know this sounds crazy, but I called up my insurance agent and said, yeah, so if there's an implication to this, what do I do? She's like, don't do it. I'm like, okay. But, there was nothing in town. I mean, now, don't get me wrong. I live in Nashville.
Right.
There are enough studios here. You can, swing a dead rabbit and there's, a studio. I mean, in my neighborhood, there are probably 10 or 12 that I don't even know about just because of the fact that everybody here has a studio.
But are they for
But they're
like
for music.
Yeah,
Yes,
which is a
they're
very
for
big
music,
difference. Yeah.
which is very different. And a lot of people don't understand that. They're like, yeah, a friend of mine who does music made my demo. And I'm like, yeah, I can tell. It's just because, yes, they know certain things. They may have the equipment, but they don't have the right environment and they don't have the know-how for voiceover. They have the know-how
Exactly.
for music and they're fantastic at it. But we had, and there are several voiceover dedicated studios here in town, but they're busy, they're expensive, and, people just needed a place that they felt a little more comfortable and friendly when they're starting out. If you're a working pro, when they tell you it's $300 an hour, you're like, okay. Because I'm making, $1,500 on that job, whatever, but
Right.
when you're starting out and you need a place to record a demo or you need a place to learn or you need a place to do a Source Connect session real quick, there really wasn't anything here in town that allowed that, without
great.
significant expense to the talent. So that's one of the reasons I built it was because I kept getting all these requests and, friends who would come into town, who are like, hey, I need a place to record real quick.
studio.
What do you suggest? And they would call the studios and none of them would be available. So and they're like, can we please come to your place? And I'm going, oh. And, when that was first starting, I lived in the very far west side of Nashville and nobody wanted to go out there. Now I live far south in a town called Franklin. And so that's even further.
I went to Franklin Road Academy.
Oh, did you? Oh, my
Yes.
goodness gracious. Yeah. So, yeah, you know. Yeah. So I live in Franklin, which is 20
I was
something
15
miles
though,
south.
so I was 15 though, so it was a long,
Yeah.
long time ago. But
Yeah.
right. So I know
Yeah.
Nashville has just boomed. Like
It has.
it's
Yeah.
insane from what I hear, and some
It
people are
is.
like thinking
It's
it's really
insane.
crowded.
Yeah, it has grown, but so it just kind of made sense to put the studio kind of in a central location, for everybody, and it draws a lot of people because it is so central, with the exception of traffic.
Right.
Our
yeah.
traffic here is worse than LA could ever hope to be.
Right.
We're not built for it. So, but yeah, I mean, it just the studio itself came around because of that, and it started out slowly, and I thought about scrapping it many times. But it's now picking up and things are going well. I'm
But
getting,
that's the classic story, because you're fulfilling a need.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's same for us. We're pretty much the only professional studio that does voiceover on Long Island for people that don't want to head into the city.
Right.
Because it's a pain in the butt to take the train and then the cost and all of that. So people get very relieved when they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're right here in my backyard." And I'm like, "Yeah." So, it is you fill that need and you hope that you can help as many people as possible.
Absolutely.
So-
That's what it's about. I mean, I literally 30 seconds before we joined this call, I got a call from a guy saying, "Yeah, I found you guys and I really want to find out a little bit more about you. Do you have a few minutes?" And I'm like, "Well, actually, I have about 30 seconds. Can I call you right back when I'm done?" So, but yeah, it's nice to get those calls that people are like, "Hey, I found you and I want to know more about your classes." And, it's very gratifying to know that it's working, because it is a labor of love. It's a labor.
Yeah, I know. But you're getting face-to-face feedback, which is nice,
Yeah, it is.
to
It's
get
great.
that. So now, are you from Nashville?
No, I'm from all over the South. My mother is from East Tennessee. And I was born in North Carolina and grew up a lot in North Carolina and Texas and then back to Tennessee. But my mother lived here right when I graduated college. Well, while I was in college, I did an internship up here. I had an internship opportunity because my mom lived here in town. And then that company offered me a job once I graduated. So I moved up here. And I moved, I lived a couple other places after that. Temporarily for a couple of years, but I've been in Nashville consistently since 1999. So
Wow.
I'm kind of, old guard here.
This is-
for those who weren't born here, it's like I've been here forever now compared to everybody else that's moving here. So,
Gotcha. Well, it's a great
Yeah.
market. And now, I'm
Yeah.
sure you couldn't foresee how it was going to expand.
No,
but
it's
it's a great
insane.
market to be in. So let me ask you, because I know with me and when I started out, the studio really started in like 2016 of accepting people. And I initially started with group classes
Yeah.
and doing these classes that were like once a week for like 4 weeks. And I had a tough time getting commitment that people were like, I can't do all those 4 weeks. I can't do such and such. And I gave up on that, honestly, because I had trouble with it. I think I did one round of classes with a small group. And after that, I was like, it isn't worth my time. It isn't worth, even. But how have you found that? Do you do group classes now?
Yeah, we do mostly group classes. I actually have, and I do them. I have several different things that we offer, and I just, kind of tailored it and changed it from when I
Sure.
started in 2021. But I have something called the weekly workouts, and they're 5 weeks in a row. And sometimes people have trouble making all 5 weeks, but I have a makeup once a quarter, for anybody who
good.
missed a class. But yeah, the 5 weekly workouts, I do them in two different ways. I have the in-person, which is on a Monday night. And then I have the virtual, which is Thursday nights. And even some people from town, do the virtual because A, they don't want to fight Nashville traffic.
Yeah.
And, B, it just suits their schedule. The other thing is sometimes people, because I limit it to 6 people.
Oh,
because
good.
it's only an hour and a half. It's 6:30 to 8 Central Time, and it's people. I only want to have 6 people, so everyone has adequate time in the booth and to get the
Exactly.
feedback. So I limit it to 6, and sometimes the people here in town sign up too late, and they're like, "Well, I'll just do the virtual. That's fine." So I have those 2 things that I do, and they rotate. It's for 5 weeks. I take a week off, and then it just keeps going. And they're very popular, and people are constantly like, "Oh, that one's sold out. Darn, I'll wait till the next round," because they're getting the practical training in the booth if they're doing that on, the in person. And so that's starting to really kind of build. And some people take it 2 times in a row because they just want to keep going with it.
Now, is it like maintenance for existing voice actors or people just starting out? How are you handling it? Both.
It's a little bit of both. It's mostly new people, but we do have some people that just want to have, their skills refreshed, especially like the virtual version is sometimes, people who just want some maintenance because they've already got a studio. So, they're sitting in their studio when they join Zoom.
They want to get feedback.
So they still have their mic and everything else. They just kind of want that, that feedback and just maybe new skills and techniques and just kind of have someone listen to them so they don't get into old habits. The last round of virtual I did, I had 3 ladies in there, and one of them was a little newer, but she has been working for a little while, and then the other 2 have been doing this for a while. They're working pros, and they just were like, yeah, this has been great just to refresh and feed off each other. And so it was there was only 4 of us, and with me included in there, and so it was just kind of a nice little kind of a sisterhood of let's do this together,
Yeah,
and it was kind of fun that it was actually, that they were just they were all women, because I've never had a class with just all one, sex or the other before, which I could tailor the scripts that way a little bit more.
Right,
which was kind of fun, There were certain topics that was like, okay, let's delve into this, ladies, Not that I want it to be that way all the time, but that one particular group was really fun. And then there are times I get people who are really, everybody in the class is really, really new. And that's great because then everybody's starting on the equal footing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get people who have had a lot of acting experience, and so their interpretation of the copy is a lot faster, and we talk about that. And then there's the people who are new, completely new and have never done anything in their life, and you mention the word acting and they get nervous.
Right.
But
we have to mention it.
Yeah.
Because it's a big
exactly.
part.
It's called voice acting. Yeah.
We keep our online workouts. We do online workouts on select Wednesday nights. And we keep it to 6 people as well. Because I want everybody to they usually get in around 3 rounds of,
us too.
And that way they feel like they're getting value for the time and the money that they're spending, But,
exactly.
And I feel like it's good just for maintenance, as well as introducing somebody new who might be nervous and not know. We're like, come on down, read some stuff. We're not going to bite.
Yeah, we're going to just go over copy and copy points and different kinds. And we do different kinds of copy, too. It's not all commercial. I start out with commercial. I consider that the foundation of if you can interpret commercial copy, which is, sometimes 5 lines. Trying to understand the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story and what the story is about within those 5 lines, that's what the skill is.
Right.
If you can, once you do, after that, corporate narration, e-learning, any kind of other things, even character work, animation, video games, you've got so much more copy, to look at and understand the development of your character and all that stuff. If you, can do it in commercial, you can do it with everything else. So, but then we also do corporate narration, and sometimes we'll do telephony work, or, just anything to kind of introduce them to some of the different styles of voiceover and the way scripts are formatted and the way things might come to you and what they're asking for, and the fact that even if it's an on-hold message or if it's a telephone system, you still have to know who your audience is and why you're talking to them. It's not just I'm going to read these words on the page. We don't read, we perform.
Right.
I don't talk about reading copy. I talk about performing copy. So that's what we talk about in those weekly workouts, and those are becoming very popular. The other class I have, which I'm very proud of, we're on the 2nd round right now. You were talking about people can't commit to 4 weeks. Try 12.
Oh, my God.
It's a 12-week master class.
Wow.
It's every Wednesday night for 2 hours, and it is a master class. I have guest speakers come in. It is soup to nuts, A to Z, everything about voiceover. We don't do performance within that. I talk about performance and I talk about, scripts and other things, but it's basically how to build a business, and it's called Career Path. And it's about building a career path.
So it's like a course? Like a structured course?
Yeah, structured course. I have,
That's great.
I've written it all out, and I've got all the, information that I send them. They get a notebook with everything in it.
That's
great. I cover everything from, basic editing techniques and studio setup and equipment.
Soup to nuts.
Yeah, it really is soup to nuts. And then it's mostly business stuff because, that's 80% of what we do is business.
Right.
Invoicing, marketing, taxes, all that kind of good stuff. We talk about all of those things, whether you're union or non-union, FICOR, and what that means.
You
and,
need those 12
rates
weeks. That's a lot of information.
It is. It's a huge amount of information, and everybody that's gone through the first course and the people who are in it now are just, gaga over it. So I'm really proud of it. It was a labor of love.
Seriously.
Honestly, 12 weeks in a row is a lot of stuff, but it was just needed because people kept asking the same questions. They're like, okay, I've done this and I booked my first job. I don't know what to do. Like, really?
I know.
Yeah, okay. We talk about what it's like to do an online, a directed session. Best practices for studio etiquette. If you go into a studio, do this, don't do that.
Right.
We talk about auditions.
Is the course online or is it in person?
It's both. It's a hybrid class.
Okay.
So mostly people from here in town come.
Gotcha,
but
take the class.
I have several people that, like right now, I have a lady she's from Boston. The last time I did the class on the first round, I had a lady from New Jersey. So yeah, I mean, there's, it's a hybrid class so that, and I always record the Zooms so that way,
That's cool.
People have it to refer to. And because within 12 weeks, somebody's going to be gone. They're going to be on vacation. They're going to be sick. They're going to whatever. So, and even within that, if the weather's really bad or whatever, we'll just say everybody's on Zoom this week, and that way I record it and everybody doesn't have to come in if, it's snowing or icing here or whatever it does.
So I'm trying to think set up for physically, like in your studio, you have the people that are physically there sitting and they're watching something, and then the Zoom is happening. Those people are chiming in on Zoom?
Yeah, I have a separate computer that has the Zoom on it, for them. But sometimes it's on the main. I have a big, big screen.
Okay.
And I'll connect it up with that and have the camera.
This is a production,
everybody.
Christi.
Yeah, it is. It's a little bit of a production. Yeah, it's not
That's
quite
great.
I haven't tweaked it like I want to yet, but it's a production and it's working. And,
Let's be honest. How long did it take you to
PowerPoint.
put together the information for the 12 weeks?
Oh gosh. Well, okay, I'm going to give away my secret here. There were many days, like when the class was about to start, I had literally just finished printing the information because I had just written it like the hour before.
Fair, totally.
So the second round is so easy. The second round, I'm like, gosh, this is great. It's already written, But no, I mean, it did take me a long time. I knew what classes I wanted to take, and I had split it up. It was just gathering that information, and I would talk to some of my colleagues and stuff and say, hey, what do you think about this? And they would give me some feedback and tips and things. I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot to talk about that. So, I would incorporate that in, and, I built it over time. I mean, I was constantly thinking about it, constantly adding stuff to it.
I wrote a book, right, that I use with my students when I teach.
Oh, great.
And it took 6 months. And I'm not even going through all of the after, like you're handling a lot of the business. We really focus more on performance coaching.
Right.
But it still took me 6 months. And thank God I did part of it during COVID, you know, and again, I lived and breathed this book, but so you're telling me 12 weeks of all the information. I'm like, oh my God, that is such an accomplishment.
Thank you. Yeah, it was, it's a lot. And, it's not completely comprehensive. I always tell everybody, hey, look, this is the 12 years of experience of my life of doing this, along with, again, feedback and other information that I've learned from other friends and things in the business over the length of time. And, anytime something comes up that I'm like, hey, a friend of mine does this, I give all due credit. It's like, hey, this is, from a friend of mine mentioned this is how they do things or blah, blah, blah. And because I don't steal things, I didn't look at anybody else's course or curriculum. I did it all on my own. And I did that on purpose. I didn't want to look at anything else because I didn't want to because, this is a very small business and you don't want to, capitalize off or, cannibalize somebody else's work because it's not cool. That's stealing and called plagiarism. And I wasn't about to do that. It's all kind of from my brain, but from experiences I've had or other people have had. And again, I credit, where credit is due. Sure. And I do bring in different people to talk about stuff, that I think is relevant so that it's not all me and all coming from my perspective.
Yeah, that's
I'll have
valuable.
Mark Scott talk about marketing. I had Tom Deere come in and talk about let's do a business plan. This is what and how to do a mission statement. Because, they are so good at that.
Right.
They teach that all the time. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
You know, those guys are the gurus in that within our industry. So that's who I have come in and talk about that stuff. I have a local studio owner who, you know, is an audio engineer and phenomenal guy. He comes in and talks about the equipment. And, you know, when people have questions about, you know, high pass filters and all that stuff, I'm like, talk to him, don't talk to me.
I know. I don't claim to be a professional.
Get the people that do that stuff, the professionals, to do that. So
I know what I know, and I know what's worked for me over my career.
Right.
But like, I'm not a big animation person. I'm not a
either.
big video game person, and I got a lot of people, especially young students, that are like, I want to do this. So I'm like, well, I can train you the basics, but then I got to send you to another studio because I'm not going to fake it and be like, oh, you know, I can. Plus, I wouldn't dare touch a demo on that. You know, I don't know how that should be produced.
Yeah,
you know?
me either. And those are the things I tell everybody all the time in any of my classes. It's like, I'm going to give you some basic information. And if you are really passionate about a particular genre, and if I have no idea anything about it, I'm going to recommend at least 2 or 3 coaches to you because that's not my area. And I would never presume to make that my area and tell you, here's how to do it if I haven't done it myself and I don't know what it is.
Exactly.
You know? So yeah, I'm constantly saying, go learn from other people.
Mm-hmm. I know.
I'm giving you the empty toolbox and a couple of tools. Now it's your job to go get the other tools so you can build your business.
That's great. So I know you and I have a mutual friend in Kevin Kilpatrick who coaches with you.
Yes,
and so with us, he's focusing more with us for like narration and, you know, maybe some documentary and stuff because I am not a narration. I mean, I do it, but to coach it is a different thing.
Yes.
You know, I know how to coach the things that I do a lot of, but so I'm really happy that he has agreed to do that because like the same thing, you find that other person who does something really well and they can share their, you know, their experience and he's a great coach. He's such a great coach.
He's a fantastic coach. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I have several different coaches that, you know, specialize in different things. J. Rodney Turner is a prolific and wonderful audiobook narrator. And he coaches our audiobook class because that's what he does. I don't do audiobooks. I've done 2 in my life and that was enough. I said, I've done it, you know.
Not
if it was a very short nonfiction thing, I'd be like, yeah, sure, okay, I'd do that. But yeah, it's not my area that I want to specialize in. I love the people that do them and have many, many friends that do. And I respect the heck out of narrators of all different kinds of genres. There are just certain things that I know I'm fit for. And so when it's, you know, but if there's a need and a lot of people are asking about it, there are plenty of people in town that I know that do those things. So I'm going to have them teach those courses, you know, if they're willing to, because I think you and I are very much the same on that you find the people that specialize in that to teach the students because you want to give them what it's right to give them if they're paying this money and coming to you. Because I know nothing about animation or video games.
Yeah, no. I know it shreds your voice, but that's about it. So I'm always like, you really need to take care of your instrument.
Yeah,
but like the same with technical, I know what I need to do to get my work done. And we use Pro Tools here at the studio. And I've used Pro Tools since the mid-90s. So it's like, I know the keyboard shortcuts. I'm not going to learn something new. I'm like an old horse here. Yeah. But I'm now actually started taking a course in Pro Tools to understand it. I know what to do, but I don't get it. Like, and I have students coming to me going, my input, why do I not have levels? And I'm like, I want to be able to professionally tell somebody without having to drag Dave in every time, who then is the audio guy. But just to try to get a little bit, I'm certainly not going to become like Pro Tools certified, but I just want to know, I just want to know. And I always say, I know what to do, what I do, but beyond that, I can only give you so much advice. But yeah, it's the same kind of idea.
And it's nice and gratifying that people want to come to you because they're the first person they think of when it's like, and that's nice. And sometimes I find it frustrating for myself, not of them asking questions, but just like, gosh, I wish I had a better answer. But I always have an answer of, here's who can help you. Even if I can't answer it myself, I will find someone to help you or I will recommend someone to you because I do want to give them an answer.
Right.
But even if it's not me saying, yeah, I'll help you with that. I mean, I use Twisted Wave. It's simple. It's easy. I know how to make it work. I don't need to do all the bells and whistles. So I have a couple of students who are using it, and they've hired me for, an hour consultation. They bring in their laptop, and they're like, okay, can we sit and talk about this? Because I'm confused on X, Y, and Z. And like you, I don't know all the ins and outs. And at
Yeah.
the end of the conversation, after I show them just enough, I'm like, now, here are two people that can help you. I'm like, George the Tech and Uncle Roy. Call them. They've got tutorials online.
I have a student, he came in yesterday because he's having so much trouble with Pro Tools. He keeps sending me audio files and he listens to the podcast. Hi, Miles. And his port levels are so low. And he came in yesterday. I'm like, we have got to get your levels handled. And he's clicking around because he has a nephew who does music production. And so his nephew flew in from LA to try and set him up, gave him a template, which was very nice. But somehow kind of showed him some other things. And he opened up windows that I have never in my whole career ever touched. And he's like, well, what's that? And why is that? I go, no. You need to focus on this and this. Shut everything off. Don't think about it. It doesn't pertain to us. We're voice talent. Unless you're going to mix, unless you're going to go into production. But stop. You don't need it. You don't need it. So it was just kind of funny,
Yeah, exactly. And I try to have my students start out with something, just the basics and the simple stuff, because they're going to be so scared about the tech anyway. It's a lot to have to do now. People used to not have to do this. They just had to have the acting and the skills and to go in and perform, and that was it. And they walked away, and that was the old way of doing things. But now we have to do all of it.
Yeah, and at least the basics to be able to set ourselves up. And plus, if you're in the middle of a session, something technically goes wrong, you got to have a couple of things in your back pocket to attempt to try so you don't look like a fool.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a lot of pressure and a lot of, work. And,
I know.
Sometimes I get people coming to me that want to do this as a second career. So they're not young kids anymore that have grown up with tech all their life. And they're just like, oh, yeah, I could probably fix this in a second, and don't have the fear of it as much. They have a little more fear when it comes to the technical aspects of things. And so they're like, oh, my gosh, what if I hit the wrong button? And I'm like, you're not going to, launch a rocket, so it's okay.
It's not gonna explode.
Just so it's but it is scary. There are things that happen technically, and we do have to have at least enough understanding to do what we need to do, and it can be overwhelming when you first start out.
If I was just starting out now, I would be completely overwhelmed.
I think I would be too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I try to tell people, let's simplify it, because also there's so much information out there, and people start to get into these YouTube, rabbit holes. And they're like, I watched a video on that, and then another guy did this. And I'm like, oh, it's almost like it's too many opinions and too much information.
Yeah.
And so we just try to make it as simple as possible so people aren't freaking out.
Me too. I try to keep it, very basic. Just enough, give you, here's what you need. This is going to accomplish the mission. If you want to go further, here are the people that you can, that we trust within our industry to say, here's the information that works and pertains to our industry. Because again, you can go down, YouTube rabbit holes that have stuff to do with other areas, ancillary and connected, but not quite us. And then you're gonna get overwhelmed by everything.
Or they come to me like, I heard that we should do this with the studio, and I should set up this type of. And I'm like, but who told you that? And why? Stop. But I don't blame them. It's how it is.
Yeah, it also depends. I keep telling everybody, I always do the caveat of what works for you in your space, in your life. I don't know what your house looks like. I don't know if you can afford to do, a standalone booth. I don't know if you're using a closet. I don't know if you have 6 kids who are homeschooled. I don't know what your life is like. I'm going to give you the best advice I can based on generic situations, but you have to then adapt for your world, because everybody's world is different. So it's hard to sit in a class with, 12 people, 6 or 12 people and say, okay, here's what everyone has to do. No, that's not how this works. Think about, and when I do my very first Voiceover 101 class, which I do once a month, that gets people in and kind of interested. It's a 3-hour class, and I do it 3 hours for a reason, to give them as much information as possible. Because at the end of that 3 hours, if they're like, oh yeah, I don't want to do all that, then they've only spent $99. They haven't, invested hundreds and thousands of, in stuff that they're like, yeah, I can't do this. And every time I ask them, if you had to, set up a recording area in your home right now, where would that be?
Right.
And they're like, yeah, I don't really have anywhere. I'm like, okay, that's a problem.
Yep.
That's something to consider.
I have studio visits that come in, and free visits, and I always say, let's ask a couple questions. First off, what's your regular job? What do you do for, do you have any financial support? Second, are you okay with technical aspects, would you be open to that? Third, there's several questions. Are you cool with owning your own business? Because you're going to be a small business owner, and fourth, do you have the space in your house or apartment to put in a booth? And is it realistic? Or one of my students lives in Queens. He's never going to be able to put in, it's just, he realizes that, and he's going to have to move if he wants to do this. But all of those things have to be set, or else don't even bother doing this, because you're just going to be hitting your head against a wall.
It is. I say the same thing to my students all the time. We kind of focus on, so the Tennessee state flag has a round, it's round, and then it has 3 stars in it. Well, here, I'll show you. Kind of looks like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's got 3 stars. Well, I use those things as our pillars of, business, technical, and performance. So I hit on all of those areas. You have to be able to perform, obviously, because you're never going to get hired if the client doesn't think that you are, the person to perform their script and their project. And then, of course, you have to, know the technical. You have to be able to run your equipment and set it up and have a good studio sound and everything else. And then, of course, the most important to me, and I tell them all this, is the business side of this. If you're not willing to run a business, invoice people, market, realize that you are constantly on and have to know your elevator pitch and your why. And you have, like, as Tom Deere says, you have to know your why. What is it that why do you want to be doing this? Yeah. Is it just because you think it'd be fun and you make silly voices when you read your books to your kids and they keep telling, or somebody tells you over and over again, you have a great voice, you should do radio.
Yeah, that's my favorite. I'm like, why don't you jump into radio, a sinking industry? Go for it.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. But they think, well, radio, maybe I'll just do voiceover instead. And it's like, it has nothing to do with your voice. Yeah. I mean, it might make someone kind of go, oh, for 2 seconds, but it's all the other stuff that it's about, So, yeah, we talk about those 3 things all the time. And you're right. If you don't understand that you're going to be running your own business and having to take out your own taxes and paying your own health care and paying all that stuff that goes with it. And I tell them immediately in that Voiceover 101 class that getting family support and buy-in and, and having whoever it is that's in your life, your important people, if they are going to be negative about this in any way, you're spending too much money, it's taking too much time, you don't have a good enough voice. What are you thinking? You can't run a business. You're not smart enough for that, whatever. Because I've had several people in my classes tell me that that's been said to them. I'm like, if you don't have that backup, it's going to be a very hard road. And it's also going to probably cost you $10,000 to $15,000 to get started.
Yeah.
Between all the training and the equipment.
To do it properly.
Yeah, to do it properly and demos. And, it's like, but what other business can you start for $10,000 or $15,000? If you wanted to own a Jimmy John's franchise, you're good, what, $1 million or more? I mean, you're going to have to go get a business loan. In this case, you may need to get a small business loan too, or figure it out from your own personal finances or talk to a family member or whatever. But you got to have the time and the money.
But it's the ultimate compliment to those of us that do this for a living, because we make it look easy.
Yeah.
And so people are like, oh, I could do that. And what do you do? You just read, just tell me the website to find the jobs. And I'm like, okay, we have so much to discuss. But I do the same thing too. I put them through also a performance audition.
That's great.
Where I have them read something, because my cutoff is, if you can't let go with a script behind a microphone, I can't help you. Yeah. Or I send them to an acting school that I know of. We also do improv here at the studio. I do it like once a month, which is fun.
That's great.
The funny part is it's all people that are not in voiceover, that they just want to let their hair down and have a great time, which is really fun.
I love that. Yeah. That's
fun. It started as I want to, add this value to my voiceover students, and it turned out to be it's really funny. We're doing one tomorrow night.
That's great.
But otherwise, I'm like, if you're too buttoned up, if you're too in your head, if I tell you right now I need you to read that like a crazed psycho killer, and you can't turn it on because you're not comfortable or you're feeling self-conscious, then maybe some acting classes would be good. But that's usually my what do you call it, threshold, where I decide if someone can be coached or not, as opposed to, you've got a great voice, come on, join my course, and
exactly.
I'm going to take your money, even though I, deep down you have a great voice, but that's not really the truth of what it takes.
Whether you're going to make it in this business,
Your studio sounds is similar to ours, my company, where it is very customized.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
the person, right, and where they're at, what the path in life that they've taken. Because I get the same thing too. Second career folks, maybe their experience. One is a pharmacist. Maybe you should be doing medical. It's like
Exactly.
you cater it, or you have people that have certain talents already that maybe not in voiceover. And I have a gentleman that is coming Friday, and I gave him a piece of copy, and he broke down that thing like it was I've never had anybody be so good. I'm like, you're so good. He goes, oh yeah, I was a copywriter for 10 years. I'm like,
Holy
okay.
cow. Yeah. Okay. He needs to teach a course.
I'm
like,
well,
what's
then
the copywriter look like?
That's
look
why
at
you're
it?
getting
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
But no, it sounds like you guys customize. You do that whole.
Yeah, I do. We're very intentional about, I talked, again, that voiceover 101 class is one of the things I say, okay, what's your background? Why are you here? What drew you to it? Is it because you play a lot of video games? Is it because people have told you all your life you should do it because your voice is good? Is it because you want to get out of the industry you're in and you used to do acting as a kid or whatever, or, in college, and you just want to get back to it? What is it? So I get a little bit of everything. I get teachers who want to do audiobooks because they love teaching, they love learning, they love the characters. I'm like, that's perfect. I've got several people we have a huge healthcare industry here in Nashville, and, they're related to healthcare in some way. And so I'm like, okay, here are the people you need to talk to about medical narration. One lady is like, yeah, I want to get out of that. I said, yes, but this will help you build your business and get used to it and learn and, make the money. And then you can branch out, or you can get out of that altogether. But use the skill you've got, and we talk about that. It's like, what do you already have? What do you already bring to the table? What is it that you've got?
Exactly.
I've got lots of people who are in sales. I'm like, great. You're going to be great on the business side and marketing yourself. That's one skill set you've already got. Mark that off your list. Now let's work on the performance part. And there's a acting school in the same building we're in. And so we're constantly referring each other. And there's a new improv company that's actually down here in Franklin that we're in the process of, because they're new and, we're newer, we're all trying to figure out how to make it all work and refer each other, students to each other, because a lot of their improv and acting students want to do voiceover, and then a lot of my students need improv and acting classes because they just need that. You're right. They need to loosen up. You need
it.
They have different, it's like, okay, get comfortable with this, play, have fun. I want you to get in there and just completely loosen up and have a great time right now. Just be silly with it.
I know.
You're right.
For
there
some
are a lot
people,
of that just
easier
can't
said
be
than
silly.
done. Yeah, they can't let go with it.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you have the same thing too, because I feel kind of like I run two separate businesses because I have my online folks, a lot of online people, and because I'm on Long Island, it's a very, we're New York, tons of people here. I have a large physical. So, and the people that are here don't necessarily participate in anything online. So it's like two separate audiences, I guess.
Yeah,
so do you have
absolutely.
the same thing?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. And it's, and sometimes my classes will be hybrid because I'll get people from like East Tennessee in a voiceover 101 class that's zooming in, and then I'll have like 2 or 3 people that are actually physical here.
That's
cool. And that's okay. But, I like to try to offer as many opportunities as possible for people anywhere they want to, wherever they are, to be able to participate and find out who, and if they happen to be in a place that I'm like, okay, well, have you ever met so-and-so, or have you ever talked to so-and-so, or do you know about this, group of people? And, find a group of people in your area that are also doing voiceover or are interested in voiceover, so you have some, your tribe where you are.
Right, exactly.
Because I like to make sure that people do feel connected, because this is a very solitary business once you get into it.
Right.
But that doesn't mean as you're going down the path of the journey of doing this that you have to be by yourself. And you shouldn't be. That's the other thing I like about my, the 6-person classes. Those people have gotten very close to each other sometimes. There was one class that I did, and at the end of the second class, they were like, okay, who all's on Discord? And they huddled over in the corner, and they're all like, okay, let's share our information with each other. And they all came in one day and did a vision board thing with each other. They borrowed the studio to do vision boards. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that made me prouder than anything else that had happened at the studio at that time.
That's
I was like,
cool.
These people are like becoming a group, and they're supporting each other, and they're friends, and they go out for coffee, and they build vision boards together. I was like,
That's
yay!
so cool. Yeah.
To me, that was the solid win. Just that they're finding each other.
I have that with my improv group too. They get together and
I
watch
bet.
football games, and they all hang out. And but I have two separate things from my intro people. So online, my online audience, we have a course, basically an online course, the Guru Fundamentals, kind of similar to your 101 probably, that they take on their own, and then they can then do a lesson, 2 lessons, whatever. But my whole thing is, especially people that come to the studio, I find that after people take 4 lessons, they know if they want to do this or not.
Yeah.
So like, I don't lock anybody into anything long term. I say for Long Island and for tri-state area, you're my people. I give you the 4-pack at a discounted rate. You can get 4 lessons. I will teach you in person. And at the end of the 4, we'll reassess. Is this something that you want to do? Because I'm not going to be, and I'm sure you're the same way. I'm not going to say $5,000, give me $5,000. I'm going to take you through all this stuff. And maybe it's not even for you. I mean, and I get people that come with demos that they've gotten from places. And they're upset and they're like, I don't understand what to do. And I'm like, you weren't ready to make a demo in the first place.
No, if you don't understand, that's what bugs me the most is like, well, if you don't even understand what to do once you've got a demo, like, that's not right. You have to know all of it, not just you have to be able to perform and you have to take direction, but you also have to know, what do you do to send out that demo? Who do you send it to? What are the best practices on that? How do you reach out to agents? What do you do? Sign up for a casting site, all that kind of stuff. Well, when you get auditions, how do you label them? Where do you say, all that stuff?
I know.
What file format should it be? People are like, I don't even know how to do an audition. I'm like, okay, then that means you haven't been taught well. That's like somebody saying, okay, we're going to take a couple cooking classes and here's a set of professional chef's knives. Go now, be a Michelin 5-star chef in this restaurant. You're like,
oh,
wait, what?
Okay. I
don't even know what a Michelin 5-star is. Like,
my online,
like, no.
I have a masterclass membership, similar probably not to your extensive 12-week, which is fantastic. And I have videos talking about different things. I don't touch marketing. I refer people. I'm not a marketing person.
Exactly.
But I have videos, same thing. And then I have like quick tip videos, what if a client doesn't pay you? How should you follow up? Things like that. The little stuff.
Yes, the little stuff.
But online, the online crew, it's great because they can learn about the different topics that they want to. Here at the studio, it's so customized that it's like, okay, where do you want to go next? What are we going to do? But, it's just you make it as valuable for the student as possible. At a decent price point. It's not going to kill people.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I think our prices are very reasonable for our market. I mean, there are people who will say, well, I just can't afford it right now. And sometimes, for certain people that I've known for a long time, I'll do payment plans of certain things just because it's like, I get it. I can break that down if you get paid weekly and everything else and you can afford, just that little tiny bit. It doesn't cost me extra. It's just, I'll
but as
send
long
the
as
invoice and
my opinion is as long as you're of the understanding that this is an investment.
Yes.
So if you're
absolutely.
having trouble, it depends on what stage they're at. If they're at the very beginning and having trouble with the first group of lessons, I'm like, why don't you focus on finances first? Because if you're already having trouble with that, there's going to be so much more expense, like you were saying, that you're going to have to take into consideration.
Yeah.
So your studio, Tennessee Voiceover Studios.
Correct.
TNVO Studios. Oh, what's the website?
It is TN for Tennessee, voiceoverstudios.com.
Cool. So all you folks in the South and in Nashville and in Tennessee and you're willing to travel, you can do some in-person lessons right here with Christi. This has been great. I'm excited because you and I get to talk to somebody that's in the same situation I'm in.
Yeah, because it's a lot. It's extra. I mean, you're already a working voice actor and then you have the business on top of helping other people get into this business and training and you're running a studio and everything else. Yeah, it's double duty. 2 businesses, but it's very gratifying and worth it. I
don't
think.
know why. I mean, I'll ask you why it is that you decided to do this. For me, it's because honestly, been doing this for 20 plus years. I'm sick and tired of auditioning and looking for work. That's my honest answer. Yeah. And I have regular clients. My passion now lies, my true passion, I'm 53, moving into next stage of life, is seeing other people blossom. And especially because I have a group like 6 now of students on the spectrum or with anxiety disorders that come to me too. So it's very fulfilling, So that's for me. Did you have a reason why you started it or was it just because you were getting requests?
A little bit of both. I thought, we needed a place here in town that people could come to and rent, a booth and a place to record. I wanted to offer that because that was, Nashville is such a destination city, and I had so many people who were constantly, well, I'm in town and I need a place to record. And so that was a part of it. The other part was just that, I constantly had people asking me things and wanting me to teach classes and everything else, and, constantly asking for private lessons. And there's only so many hours in a day and only so much time I have. So I thought, maybe I need to do some more group classes. But, obviously I'm not going to do that at home. And I think I've always been a little bit of a teacher at heart. And, I enjoy that.
Comes
I like
naturally for you.
Giving people, sharing the information that I've learned, because I don't think there's anything that should be secret, and put it out there and say, hey, and I built it and I was hoping they would come, and they have. It took a little while, and I thought about scrapping it a couple of times. But yeah, for me, this was just a way to offer what I saw missing in this town with a growing amount of people that are here, with voiceover and what's going on in our industry. So yeah, it was kind of a natural progression, I think, of my career. Because you're right. I don't like the struggle of the audition and the marketing as much. I have a lot of really great, steady clients who are constantly keeping me busy on the, my own voiceover business side, which is great. And I am truly blessed to have that, and I know it. And that's what everybody I know that I'm training is seeking.
Sure.
But then, I enjoy the training part of this. I enjoy sharing and giving back and being, helpful to the community at large, and saying, hey, for those who need some updates and stuff and a place to record some things, great, here I am. If you are new and you're interested in learning about it, here I am. Either way, doors open either way.
Not to pat ourselves on the back, but I'm about to. The reason why we make great coaches is that we're not bitter and disgruntled from the business. We actually have success now, so we're passionate about it still. And as opposed to, I couldn't make it, so I'm going to teach somebody else how to do it,
Exactly. Because, I know people have that terrible saying of those who can't teach. Right. And I don't think that's completely true all the time. There are a lot of us who are very, very passionate about this that teach, because we just get asked to help out. And at some point, you're like, you either embrace that or you have to, it's all or nothing, I think. And I was kind of half teaching, and it was like, okay, I don't know if I can keep teaching the same exact thing over and over and over again to all these different people. Let me do group classes and do it all at once. And it was just a lot easier.
Makes sense. Finding a solution,
Yeah, found a solution.
I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much, Christi.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful chatting with you, fellow studio owner and fellow,
I feel we're
coach.
kindred spirits here. Kindred spirits with it.
Absolutely.
But we've got your information. I'm going to pop everything in the notes anyway.
Great.
What's your personal website? What's your voiceover website?
It's Christi, Christi, Bowen, BOWEN.com.
Awesome. People can check out your stuff. I think you're big on e-learning, right?
Yes. Well, yeah.
You've done a lot of e-learning.
It kind of became a thing, and I don't know why. I know there are a lot of people who do way more e-learning than me, but anyway, yeah, I do a lot of e-learning. I coach on it. I like e-learning a lot. I have, several steady clients. I do e-learning pretty much almost every day, at least every week. I'm doing 2 or 3 jobs, and so that's a staple for me. But I also do a lot of telephone systems, and I love doing political commercials, and I do a lot of that, and automotive. I love all those things very much.
I love automotive too. Awesome. Thank you again. And
Thank you for having me.
Wrapping up another episode of the Voiceover Gurus podcast. And make sure you head over to our website, voiceover.guru. You get information. You can reach out to us, info@voiceover.guru as well. Any questions on stuff? And you know what? Join our circle group, because everybody's digging that too. Everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to the Voiceover Gurus podcast. Real talk about the voiceover industry. Learn more about us and get coaching at voiceover.guru.